Hello and welcome to a very special interview with a very special person. I consider him a friend of mine, somebody who I've watched very closely, obviously, for decades, and then followed his career, multiple guards, coach, inspirational leader, motivational speaker, now a team owner with the Rotterdam Dockers, trying to spread cricket in European markets. Bold venture, Jonty Rhodes. Let me start with that. Wearing a new hat as team owner, Rotterdam Dockers. Holland does have a tradition of cricket. When I wear my academic hat, I know the history of cricket in the Netherlands, very strong, but this should give a fillip. When you bought into the team, what was your thought process?
Warrior, thank you. Great to see you again, my friend. I am, there's obviously been a strong association, even from a political point of view or historical point of view, with the Dutch settlers and South Africa. So Cape Town, we've been no strangers to the Dutch cricket players because their club players would often come across into South African summers, so from October until March, their winter. And the likes of Gary Kirsten. I mean, Gary spent a lot of time playing club cricket in the Netherlands before he made it into the South African setup because, so we've understood there's a really strong cricketing culture within the Netherlands. And I think a big part of me now looking from an ownership perspective, twofold. One, I spent a lot of time in Sweden in 2000 to 2023, or 2020 to 2023, and just saw the real passion for the game. But that was mainly the South Asian sort of diaspora. And we had one Swedish player. And knowing how in the Netherlands, in Ireland, and in Scotland, yes, there's a diaspora influence, but there's a very strong group of local administrators and players. So they have the cricket infrastructure. So I think that for me was one of the main reasons why I got involved. And secondly, also from a business perspective, cricket coaches and players don't often get the opportunity to get equity in a startup or in a setup where a league is just starting. And yes, it was definitely a business minded as well, but understanding that we can inject, our energy, our experience into the current infrastructure of European cricket, which we know if we look at the ICC T20 events. I mean, teams like Italy came and impressed and surprised a lot of people. And we know with the Irish, the Dutch, especially against South Africa, the Dutch team does occasionally beat the South African side in World Cups. So that was the two reasons: the business opportunity, and then also how we could add value to the current crop of players and administrators that are in the Netherlands, Ireland, and Scotland.
That actually gives my next question, Jonty, because when you say business opportunity, absolutely it should be, because ultimately, this is business. There has to be a commercial angle. Now, are you actually seeing ROI? Because a lot of these leagues, there will be a gestation period, which all of us know. But over a period of time, are you seeing the European market? I mean, Holland, when I think of Holland and the sporting ecosystem in the country, obviously, I think football. Obviously, I think hockey to an extent, having sort of been to different parts in conferences, the European Sports Management Conference, for example. I've seen these sports are well grounded, but over a period of time, are you sensing return on investment? Part one. Part two, you've hit the nail on the head when you said Sweden and the South Asian diaspora. I think the only reason cricket has not taken off in the US is because the locals still don't play. You have to get the locals to take the game and play and not leave it to expats. Are you seeing both these things happening?
I think in a nutshell, from an ROI point of view, if we're looking for a return, we obviously sponsorship is we know that the grounds are not cricket stadiums, they're cricket grounds. So 2,000 people maximum is what you can get in for us in Netherlands. And I think Malahide in Dublin, where we're playing the second half of the tournament, is fairly similar. So they're not expecting 10,000 people. So there's not much of an expectation with regards to ticket sales. But, where's the return? So for us, sponsorship is obviously important. So teams, so the US, yes, there's no local American kids playing. So it's not something that's considered an American sport. That's the one thing. Also, the viewership wise, we've got, from a broadcast perspective, it's been broadcast on Hotstar and Geo. So we are looking, there's no lights, no floodlights here in Europe. So it means that many of the games will be double headers, but there's a sort of an early morning or a mid-morning and then a late afternoon game, which coincides with almost prime time viewing in India. So that's a big thing for us. Obviously, sponsorship the awareness, if you're not getting people to watch the game, it's very difficult to get much of a return because it's a hard sell when it comes to sponsorship. So I think that's another opportunity that we're looking at. But even saying that, if you consider all the struggle that's been American cricket, the administrators having to plow money into, invest money into cricket infrastructure, which in the Netherlands, Ireland, and Scotland, I think there's at least four grounds that has ICC one-day ratings. So it's not a case of needing to start from scratch. And there is that local flavor when it comes to people playing. So I think that is massive. It's not every country in Europe. Let's be honest. If we look at the Italian side, a lot of the guys who are having the heritage passports are from Australia, South Africa, Sri Lanka. So yes, that's very similar to what we got in the US. But with regards to Scotland, Netherlands, and Ireland, I went down to, there was a big match in Rotterdam. I landed on Saturday, and on Sunday there was a big derby, like they have in football, but the cricket club derby was Excelsior playing. So the club that we're going to be based at, they were having there were 100 people watching a club cricket game, which was really sweet. But the people who are playing, young Dutch players, are completely Dutch. And I think from that perspective, they've been born there, they're schooled there, they are part of the fabric. And that really is important because we know there's a strong connect already. And then how do we keep adding to that?
Fantastic. So now if you wear your cricketer hat, you are actually talking to me about possible globalizing of the game, something that cricket has struggled over a period of time. We still see 4 or 5 major countries, and England, Australia, India, South Africa, New Zealand. Pakistan is on a terminal decline, if I say that. But if I take Pakistan at 6, Bangladesh winning against Australia is great, 7. But now if you're opening up Europe, you guys are all major stars, whether it's a Jonty Rhodes or an Abhishek Bachchan or a Faf du Plessis, Rahul Dravid, clearly these people have heft. So if I sort of fast forward to 20, 35 years down the line, do you envisage that Europe would become a possible cricket market? Is that the studies that you all have done, research that you all have done telling you?
Well, if you think, the Netherlands qualifying for the T20 World Cup knocked the West Indies out, so we look at teams like that. So if there already is a massive potential, and it's then just getting teams, as I said, when I was working in Sweden, I was looking, obviously the Dutch Cricket Board were really supportive of all of Europe because they had also been in turn supported in a big brother kind of way by the ECB. So ECB were really supportive of European cricket, of Netherlands, Scotland, and Ireland. So the Dutch Cricket Board have been really instrumental in assisting, the smaller associate member countries in Europe. So yes, we do envisage that. It's now also becoming a part of the Olympics. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because in Sweden, we had obviously a strong diaspora, Indian, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lankan, odd Bangladesh, South African. But in the women's side, the Swedish women that we brought into the international setup were ice hockey player, handball player, 2 tennis players, 3 sisters who were good athletes, and they wanted to represent Sweden. So international honors in European countries is a big part of the draw. And I think, the big thing for us is that trying to let people understand that there's lots of crossover and similarities between the different sports. I was a hockey player, tennis player, cricket player, and a football player. So all these things that combine really well. So when it's a part of the Olympics, I think there's going to be a stronger focus in Europe on people looking for a pathway. And I think that's the most important thing, Boria, is that it's another level, because currently players go from club cricket to international cricket in the Netherlands or in Europe, and that is such a big jump. Sure, they will shock the occasional team. They'll put on a show for 10 of the 20 overs. Maybe they'll be in the contest, but it's such a big gap between where they're currently playing and the international stage that they end on. So there's a lot of criticism of the ICC. You can't expect them to do everything. It is up, and that was the thing for us in Sweden. The ICC just gave us full international status. So every game that we played was a full international, whether it was Denmark, Finland, Norway, in our region, which meant that government would support us because we're now representing the country. So I think from that point of view, what we're trying to do is just provide another level, another higher level that allows players introduction into the game, club cricket, ETPL, and then play at an international level, because there is such a big gap at the moment. And how do we reduce that gap by exposing younger players to great coaches, fantastic international players on a more consistent basis, as opposed to every 2 years or 3 years at an ICC event?
This is a fascinating answer. This actually again sort of leads into the next point, that when you think of cricket now, John, yes, Bangladesh beat Australia, yes, results like that happening. But when I take a look at world cricket at the moment, for the last several years, we've heard 50 over cricket is in crisis. But in your part of the world, in South Africa next year, already people are telling me from my own organization, sir, are you sending us? I mean, Virat, Rohit, possibly they will play. There's going to be a massive spectacle. Now with these leagues, with the IPL, with the 100, with the Big Bash, with all of these leagues, new ETPL, are you seeing franchise cricket kind of taking over the narrative? Like in football, except the World Cup, it is still the Champions League, it's still the La Liga, it's still the EPL. Are you seeing that happen in cricket, or do you reckon bilateral cricket contests, this series, 50 over cricket, you reckon there can be a coexistence, or do you think franchise cricket is the way forward?
Mario, I don't think it can coexist in the format that it is. Because there are 3 formats of cricket. So you've got your test matches, your 50 over, and your T20. You have many ICC events, from the World Cups to Champions Trophy. So for all of that to coexist, and because the game itself has evolved, so the structure and the way that we play it also needs to evolve to accommodate it. And yes, if you look at football, only in a World Cup year does the focus come on the national team. Up until then, there'll be friendlies, and everybody is then aligned with their clubs and their franchises. The Brazilians play wherever they're playing. It's more important, but they have one franchise. And I think that's what we're starting to see, because up until now, players can wear 5 different shirts in the space of 7 months, representing 5 different franchises. And let's face it, the football clubs around the world, it's they're looking for a return. They've got huge investors, very wealthy people who are owners of the club. And it's becoming attractive because it is a business model that's successful in football. So cricket, slowly but surely, the most successful league, obviously, is the IPL. And that is what you're starting to see, is the owners of the IPL trying to create an infrastructure where the players that they sign, their marquee players, are associated with them in the different competitions in the different parts of the world. Because you've got Heinrich Klaassen, who we've very quickly grabbed. He's been so successful for Sunrisers, but he also plays with Lucknow. In South Africa with the Durban Super Giants, now in Manchester. So he's now playing against his own team, his own IPL sort of franchise and owners. So that's what they're trying to create. And if you look at ownership in sport, it is first and foremost a business. So I think the expectation that ICC international cricket can coexist in the current format is kind of putting your head in the sand, just burying your head there and hoping things will work out. It's not going to work out. There is too much cricket. So I think bilateral 50 over tournaments or competition is going to take a bit of a backseat, unless it's a World Cup year. And we all just need to evolve with it. And, there's a lot of us who are more traditional in how we've watched the game and the kind of cricket that we love. That's great. There'll still be Ranji, there'll still be state cricket, there'll still be test cricket if you're looking for the longer format of the game. But I think understanding that sport is now business and it needs to evolve. It's evolved in other sports. It needs to evolve in cricket as well. It can't just keep carrying on. So I think it's going to change.
My point here is, the 50 over World Cup, for example, if I take the 2027 narrative is largely going to be dominated by Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. Whether Rohit Sharma plays, not play, Virat Kohli will play. So, it will be dominated by these 2 superstars. But when I think beyond that, post 27, and I see cricket in the Olympic Games now in LA, I see all of these leagues, including your own, the ETPL, I see franchise tournaments becoming viable. I think 50 over cricket, even at the ICC level, is struggling. I don't see tri-nation, I don't see 4 nations, I don't see bilaterals, because that's one format that is kind of dispensable. T20s, because of the viability with franchise leagues, because of the viability at the Olympic level, will stay. And test match cricket is the jewel in the crown. It has to continue. So
Yes.
my fear is 50 overs post 2027, October, November could become the format that kind of falls prey. Are you in agreement? Do you think it's a wrong assessment?
No, I think you're spot on there, Boria. It's kind of what I'm anticipating is that unless it's a World Cup year, so the biggest thing too is the ICC also needs to recognize that there isn't the appeal that it used to be. And yes, the names make a massive difference. They're huge draw cards, the Virat and the Rohit, and we've seen the knock that it takes because no other team has these sort of standout stars that draw the eyeballs like the Indian side does, and specifically around those two players. So I think all of us need a reality check and just go, how do we combine it? Because there's no going back. I mean, these leagues are not leagues come up and go down. Yes, there are a few that business people say, okay, let's just start. We're going to make some money and get in there, and the leagues fold. This is ICC approved. It's sanctioned by the ICC. It's got backing. The Irish Cricket Board are co-owners in the actual league. All three cricket boards are strongly supportive of this league. So it has the credentials to grow and get stronger. And there'll be many other leagues that start and disappear very quickly. So I think the ICC need to understand that, the way that cricket is structured, it needs to change because the game itself has evolved. So 50 over cricket, that's from 20 years ago. I mean, I was saying it 20 years ago that 50 over cricket I thought would be the one that would be sacrificed because of T20 cricket. I believed seeing the people come down to the game, the makeup of the crowd, the kids, the families, suddenly, cricket was vibey and exciting, which it hadn't been for a really long time. You had your stalwarts your supporters who were there in the rain, the sunshine, the blazing heat. They came down for all the games every single day of a first-class game. It was the same 100 people or 200 people that were there. But it was amazing to see how T20 drew in such a young crowd and excited people about the game. Sure, it was a very shortened version of cricket, but it opened up a brand new market, I thought. So 20 years ago, I always believed that 50 over cricket would be in trouble eventually. And possibly this, without being a doomsday kind of prophet, possibly it is now, if you look at all the signs, it is on the verge of not being relevant now. But it has been 22 years in the making, from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Coming to fielding, Jonty, and when I think of fielding, that Inzamam run out, for example, will forever be a picture postcard moment, right? That made Jonty Rhodes. I mean, for us, Jonty Rhodes, yes, South Africa versus India, but that one moment of brilliance in that 1992 World Cup was the birth of a superstar. Do you reckon that fielding still kind of gets relatively flies under the radar, gets less recognition, that it's still the batting and bowling? I don't see a fielding superstar in that sense when games have been kind of flipped on their head because of fielders. And for some reason, I think fielding needs to be given more recognition. As someone who became a superstar thanks to his exploits on the field, do you reckon there should be more weightage on fielding?
Boria, I mean, that's an interesting outlook or outtake, because fielding for me, people were talking about my fielding exploits in 1992. It literally launched my career, that Inzamam photograph, and it was only after the IPL season 2 that I got employed as a fielding coach. So people have been talking about fielding for 20 years, but still hadn't focused on it. So it's been, and it's incredible to see how that side of the game has evolved. I took 5 catches at CCI at Bradbourne Stadium, and I never left the circle to take all 5 catches. They were all in the ring. You think of players nowadays, the incredible athletic takes that they're making on the boundary. I never, unless I was chasing the ball to save a boundary, I never left the inner circle. So it's amazing to see how it has evolved. But I think, it's been great. Indian fielding coach awards the fielder of the day, gets a medal. So the contribution has been understood. And I think now that people have, there's no longer 1 or 2 standout fielders. So in my generation, it was easy to stand. I mean, Mohammad Kaif, Yuvraj Singh, these guys also stood out. Robin Singh in the Indian context, because they had 7 or 8 players who didn't want to be in the field. You could see they were waiting to go and bat, or they were in between their overs. But the last thing they felt like doing was fielding for 50 overs. So now you've got fielding coaches at every level of cricket. And, academies, under 19 teams, international teams, franchise cricket, fielding is a massive part of the game. So you can't afford to hire 2 or 3 players. So I think we've all accepted now that the fielding has reached a much higher standard. And, Glenn Phillips is somebody who is spectacular. And he'll take, I think, one-handed catches that will turn a game. Because in T20 cricket, breaking partnerships are key. And if you can't do it because the wickets, often there's not much of a contest between bat and ball. The bat dominates. The boundaries are small. They're brought in. And players are mishitting the ball for 6. So one piece of stunning fielding can change it. So I think from that point of view, it's, maybe people they love the sexy part, like the diving, the photograph of me taking out the stumps, or those incredible catches that are beyond the rope and the guys bring them back in. But if you look at the average fielding, or just, every ball that goes out to the field, I think the fielding is so much better in every department by everybody, just because you can't hide anybody. So I don't think there's a lack of appreciation for fielding. I think people understand in a big way how important it is, and not just in T20 anymore. If you're playing Test cricket and you put down Virat Kohli, he's going to make you pay, right? So you don't want to be dropping catches in any form of the game.
It's, I was coming from the standpoint that if I still see player of the match awards, it still is batting bowling. I mean, I think from that standpoint, maybe we could kind of rethink, and that's where interestingly, I was actually chatting with T. Dilip day before yesterday. I'm putting that interview out tomorrow, where he talked about this fielding medal and how Rohit Sharma actually told him over breakfast that let's not do a medal for batting bowling, but specifically for fielding, because it gets under-recognized. Anyway, Jonty, last few minutes. One, you have this very unique kind of position. One, you've been a player, a top player, and for a consistent period of time. Then you've been a coach. You've been a fielding coach. You've been part of IPL setups, Mumbai, Lucknow. You've been a head coach of a national team, Sweden. Now you're a team owner. You're a business personality. Also, you're a top-notch motivational speaker. So you wear many hats. Now, if I kind of ask you that, is there ever a Jonty Rhodes that kind of wants to coach an IPL team as head coach, wants to coach India as head coach? Is there something like that you want to do, that and the Indian assignment? Because you've stayed in India, you've stayed in Goa, you've stayed in Mumbai, you've stayed in Lucknow for a while. You know this culture very, very well. Is there that ambition now that you've done all these things? Is there that ambition, Indian coaching stint for Jonty Rhodes, or you reckon no? Like many people say, IPL is too stressful, I don't want to get into it.
Boria, I think living in India for 5 months of the year with the family, we're on the ground, we understand the passion that there is for cricket in India. But the stress is the one thing, and it's at IPL, at international level, no matter what your role is, because somebody puts a catch down and you're the fielding coach, you kind of feel the eyes on you, because that could change a game. But it's being head coach or a coach in the Indian setup is less about the pressure and more about the time constraints. I mean, it's, Indian cricket, they almost field 3 different teams at the same time, or consecutive tours, and senior players get rested, young players get given the opportunity. But the one thing that stays consistent is the coaching staff, right? So the coaching staff don't get any time off. It's a massive commitment to go back to. And one of the reasons why I started focusing on the motivational speaking, and it's not motivating people, it's just high performance in cricket and the lessons we can learn and implement in business. So it's less about, I did this and you can also get out there and go beyond and fly and take the stumps out and be successful in your business. It's actually implementing cricket lessons, and not just from South Africa or myself, but championship teams like Australia, and just understanding there's so many similarities. So I've really enjoyed that focus, because it's been 2 years of now full time of non-cricket coaching, but corporate coaching, and I've really enjoyed it, Boria. And I actually extend myself as well, because I have a couple of sessions. Sometimes it's 500 of the sales team, sometimes it's 15 or 18 of the top executives in the different segments of the business. And suddenly I'm under pressure to lift my game, because I can't just get out there and talk generically. It's got to be really specific to problems they've had this year or plans they've got for next financial year, and how would I look at it from a cricketer's perspective or a coaching perspective. So it's been really good for me, and that's the thing I'm always excited about. Taking myself out of my comfort zone. So being a fielding coach, being a cricket coach, is pretty much something I can do every day of the week because I'm still passionate about cricket. I mean, you're the same, right? Once it's in your system, it's really hard to get away from it. I've tried. I've retired from playing twice. I've retired from coaching 3 times, but I'm still involved in the game. But I don't have aspirations to, take it out or go beyond my coaching and coach a national team, especially a team like India. Just from a time constraint, it's probably 10 months of the year that I don't have to give to a national team. I'm loving what I'm.
Very logical.
Yeah.
Very logical. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and all of us crib about family time, and then we are responsible for that. So we are responsible for our actions. And here, kind of Paddy Upton becomes interesting because he's done something with Gukesh, the chess player, when he won that world championship. He's now in the Netherlands with the Indian hockey team.
Yep.
Correct. So I actually think you have a role. If some point the Indian Olympic setup, we are trying to become an Olympic nation, our Prime Minister is leading that charge, maybe, because what you're talking about is physical health, mental health, leadership, all of it combined together.
Yeah.
That's where maybe, which is not 10 months of the year or 11 months, maybe that's where you have a refreshing, opportunity. Who knows?
Boria, that funny you should mention that. John Abraham is coming as a co-owner of the Rotterdam Dockers. And he's a sports crazy. I mean, he used to be a cricket player. I didn't realize that. Sudesh Lad was his coach.
Yeah,
he and Rohit Sharma, look at the same batting coach, and you look at John and the size that he is, and this adventure action man. You kind of think, how is he caressing cover drives? He looks like he's going to muscle the ball like a Karen Pollard, like hoik it over mid wicket. But he's a sports fanatic. So he's invested in Northeast United. He's also then looking in, because in the Northeast, they produce a lot of India's Olympic medals and with a very small population. So he's looking for me to draw me into Northeast, into the football side of things, into the athletic high performance centers that they're looking to implement and set up in those regions, because there already is a strong, sort of the fabric that makes people strong, and it's a really mountainous region. People live hard lives sometimes, and they become really good athletes. And so I am definitely not casting aside that opportunity, but it'll be probably away from cricket and more on the athletics, more on the football, where there's not a lot of funding, where there's not a lot of exposure. I've been working with the Surfing Federation of India for 13 years. Now, surfing is a part of the Olympics. So, the Sports Authority India are investing in the... India has a surfing team, guys and girls who go on camps. They go to the Maldives with a coach. They've got a full-time coach now. So it's interesting when I can add a little bit of sort of light onto a sport. It certainly makes a big difference, just because of the love for cricket in India and the love that people still have for me as a cricket player. I can start exposing the good things that's going on, that just, because there's some great stuff happening, but in isolation around India. India's such a massive country. So if I can start connecting the dots, then I'm all for it.
I'm glad you said that, because my work, people, unfortunately, still sort of in India, given the cricket crazy public, they'll say cricket, but largely has been Olympic sport. That's something that I've taught for several years at the University of Chicago and other parts of the world. Have covered 5 different Olympic Games. I think the country is on the cusp, and I only have good words for John Abraham. A couple of 100 crores into football is no joke. That guy singularly pushed Northeast United, very passionate himself. And when I see the Northeast, and I see a Lavlina, I see a Mirabai, I see our boxers, I see our hockey players, I see our athletes coming out of the Northeast, I see the potential is enormous. Meghalaya is hosting the national games. So if somebody like you fits in that setup, unbelievably good for India. So I would absolutely encourage John Abraham to push you more, Jonty Rhodes, because you will be good. Make no mistake, you will be good. And that's where the future is for India. Last question. I have to ask you this, because you're still so passionate about sport. There is so much debate about age and Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli and this and that. And my argument has been, for the longest time, Jonty, it is all about performance. It is about passion. It is about what you deliver. If you are Rohit Sharma, doesn't mean you will play for India. But as long as you get that 100 at Lords, you're scoring runs, you play for India. Doesn't matter if you're 38 or 39. Sports science has added a couple of years to people's age. We are seeing that in tennis. We are seeing that with Luka Modric in football. We are seeing that across sport. Where do you stand on this debate? Is it age? Is it anything else? Or a player's performance? That's the ultimate decider, whether it is a Rohit Sharma or a Virat Kohli.
Boria, I suppose that the success of the IPL is a bit of a double-edged sword, right? It gives all these young, talented players that if 25 years ago, before the IPL, the Indian side, it was a bit like the South African team. It was very static in the number of players that came in and out. So once you were in the team, you were, as long as you scored runs, you never felt. I got dropped for 2 years in South African cricket between 96 and 98 from Test cricket, played all the one days, but had to change my technique. But there weren't 50 players to take my place. There was maybe only one other. So that is the problem that India has. And it's a great problem to have, is that what the IPL has done is that it's made, there's now, every state has its own Premier League, and young players are showcasing their skills and talents. So people see it and they think, okay, we've got to give these guys a chance. Why are these senior guys still playing? But I'm all around. I am all around performance. If you're scoring runs, because that's, the scoring ability is one thing, but it's the extra stuff that you bring in from an experience point of view about positively impacting the rest of the team around you is not something you can do when you're a young player and you're trying to understand your own game, let alone, sort of helping and assisting people with their game. So I'm all about performance, because you're right. I mean, sports science, cricket players have become athletes for the first time in a long time. It's been a long time coming, but the players are looking after themselves. So if the players are performing on the field, what more can you ask? Because they are adding massive value behind the scenes, which none of us see unless you're involved in the setup. None of us are seeing that added value that an experienced player can bring to a national team.
Jonty Rhodes, with you, I can keep conversing for hours. I will ask deep questions. You will keep answering. Unfortunately, your rest of the day will go, so I don't want to hold you for more. But I wish you all the very best, because I do think expanding the cricket market to Europe, expanding the sport, making the sport more viable, giving people jobs, giving people a lifeline in these parts of the world is essential. And like I said, at some point in time, I want you involved in the Indian Olympic setup. That's where the future is. I will do everything in my powers to make sure that happens. And John Abraham, if you're watching this interview, damn well do that. You damn well do that. That will be a service to the country, okay? But Jonty Rhodes, for Rotterdam Dockers, for ETPL, I wish you all the very best. Look forward to catching up soon, this time physically, but thank you for your time.
Thanks, my friend. Great to see you, Boria.
For India's best multi-sports coverage, your platform is one, and that's Revsportz. So like, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. I think by now you know that we will be everywhere in different parts of the world and bring you on-ground reportage. As I said, your best multi-sports coverage on Revsportz, your favorite destination.